Hello and welcome to the Pennsylvania Association for College Admission Counseling Virtual College Fair. We're really excited that you're here today for our presentation, Paying for College, sponsored by PNC Bank. This is such an important topic in higher education, and I know it's going to be covering a lot. So get ready for some notes and get excited to learn more about paying for college. A few housekeeping announcements as we get started. You can use that Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenter at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. That's why that Q&A button is so important. And this is just one of many different sessions that have been happening for Pennsylvania students. We hope that you've attended other sessions and presentations and are excited to sign up for more today. This presentation is also being recorded. This session, as well as all of the other sessions recordings, will be available on that same website where you register, strivescan.com/Pennsylvania. I would now like to turn it over and welcome our presenter, Dan Ray from FIA, and he'll be sharing all the knowledge this afternoon. Dan?
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to be here today. I'm going to start sharing my screen and we'll get going with the presentation. So welcome to Paying for College. And thank you, Jennifer, for your assistance here. My name is Dan Ray. I'm your representative here in Western Pennsylvania, beautiful Western Pennsylvania, for the PA Forward Education Loan with FIA. We are the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency. I've been in higher education for, I guess, quite some time. You can tell by the color of the beard there, right? So spent a lot of time working in a financial aid office here in Pennsylvania. Also worked for a lot of lenders over the years, worked for Guarantee Agency, and my wife and I helped to put 5 kids through post-secondary school. So I've seen this process of financial aid from a couple of different angles. Don't know everything, but I know a lot of people, right? So if I don't know answers, I at least know where to get them. If you don't know anything about FIA, this is who we are. We are a state agency. We're kind of a different state agency in that we are self-funded through our lines of business. And that primarily involves software and also higher education loans that we service. So we are able to keep our own lights on, our own plumbing going. We're able to do all of that. And in addition, just over the last 10 years, we've provided over more than $1 billion back into public service, primarily to keep that Pennsylvania state grant as high as possible. That's our biggest goal there. Now, what is financial aid? Financial aid, just we're talking about any type of funds to help you pay for school. Primarily 3 flavors here: merit scholarships, free money, grants, and some need-based in there as well, and self-help, which is loans, work, savings, right? So lots of different types in there. Most people have to cobble together multiple sources of ways of paying for higher education. And let's move on here. We're going to look at basically the 5 steps to financial aid. Try to keep this as simple as possible, even though it can be a very complicated process. I can recall plenty of times when my kids were in college, looking across the dinner table at my wife of almost 40 years now, and saying, you know, sweetheart, if I did not have, decades of experience in this line of work, I'd be pretty confused right about now. And in fact, I think maybe I am confused right now. So it can be complex. We're going to try to keep this as simple as we can. What are our funding sources? Federal government is probably the biggest single source. State government. Yeah, don't forget about those schools and colleges. Some post-secondary schools have a larger endowed scholarship fund than the gross domestic product of a lot of third world nations. So don't be forgetting about the schools and the money they have to provide. And then there's what I might call outside scholarships. So these would be scholarships you get from a private source. maybe not from the school or college themselves, but from, you know, what are some of the big private scholarships, Coca-Cola scholarship, or every major corporation, they've got scholarships out there. And then you've got your personal savings, right, as well. Everybody's got some skin in the game here. Types of financial aid programs. I usually put a little asterisk there beside free money, just because there's so many types of quote unquote free money that have strings attached that you need to learn and make sure you know how to keep your free money free. And you've got your borrowed money, your earned money as well, right? Net price calculator. The federal government has a habit of doing this to me. They come out with extremely helpful, awesome things right after I don't personally need them anymore for my own kids. And this is one of them right here, net price calculator. Wow, I wish I would have had this available when my kids, yeah, I'm salivating here. Net price calculator, you can get a look ahead of time as to what your price might be at a particular school, because you can just go to anyschool.edu, whatever school you're interested in, and go to the search button, type net price calculator. Chances are you're going to find it pretty quickly. You can plug in some information about yourself, and lo and behold, you find out what your price would be at that school. I learned that a long time ago. Even your gray bearded presenter can sometimes learn things. And, you know, I have to look sideways here, and maybe my wife is laughing in the background saying, oh yeah, prove it. And so I did learn a long time ago, I don't care what a sticker price of a school is. All I care is how much of that do I have to pay, right? If the sticker price of the school, I saw my first $82,000 per year sticker price school the other day. And, you know, I really don't care about that because if they're going to give me an $82,000 a year scholarship to go to that school, then my net price is pretty cool. So net price calculator, this is where I've led an awful lot of people to get in there. People who had self-opted out maybe of a school and said, well, you know, that school's for other people. We can't afford a school like that. Lo and behold, we get on the net price calculator and it is very affordable for that particular family, right? Don't forget about net price calculator. You can go to each individual school's website to do that, or you can also Google the federal government's Net Price Calculator Center, which can be found at collegecost.ed.gov. Start with your forms. You always want to do a FAFSA. Hey, you know, anytime you're even remotely thinking about higher education, good idea to get a FAFSA on file every year. Free application for federal student aid. It is free. You can find it at studentaid.gov. You want to make sure you're on the government site. If you're ever doing your FAFSA, you get asked for your credit card information. You want to close that browser, get out there onto the government site where it's free. The FAFSA, you're going to want to do one of them every year for every student. For the years my wife and I had 3 kids in college at the same time, each student had to do their own FAFSA, and mom and dad had to put our information on all 3 of those. Now the student is going to need a FSA ID, a federal student aid ID. You can also get that at studentaid.gov. Studentaid.gov, you'll be a recurring theme here. If you're not familiar with that website, get out there and tool around on there for an hour or two. A very deep and wide website. You want to get familiar with it. FAFSA, every year for every student. State grant form, first year only for every student. And you can hyperlink directly to that state grant form right out of the FAFSA. If you miss the link at the end of the FAFSA, it's no problem. You can just wait a couple days and go to PACAC.org, get out there, and all of these websites will be on slides later in the presentation here. But FIA.org is a place you can go and do that state grant form. Some schools require additional forms, and you want to get out there onto the financial aid webpage of every school you're interested in, find out what they require. Definitely do a FAFSA, definitely do a state grant form, but you also might need to do a CSS profile, might need to do some kind of institution-specific form. I know when my middle daughter when she went to a school. I guess I can be a name dropper, right? She went to Allegheny College in Maryland, and they had back in those days a separate form that got you applied for. I think it was up to about 100 different scholarships, right? But if you only did your FAFSA and you only did your state grant form, you didn't also get considered for those other types of aid. Very important to know what forms are required, how to get to them, when to do them by, deadlines. In financial aid, deadlines are deadlines. You miss, day late can be many, many dollars short. With the FAFSA, just do it every year as soon after October 1st as possible, and do your state grant form right at the same time. If you just follow that rule, you don't really have to worry about what the deadlines are if you just follow that rule of thumb, because then you'll be on time. Check your school deadlines. Financial aid webpage of your college of choice is your friend. Pennsylvania state grant deadlines are there. I put them on the screen, but please, as soon after October 1st of the year before you plan on attending school, that's when you want to get these forms done. Then you have your place in line. When you're going to do the FAFSA, be ready, because you're going to need some info. And these are some of the items that you're going to need. We use this terminology, and look at that one icon there, prior year untaxed income, prior year, all of this kind of, what it means is that when you're applying for financial aid, the government is looking backwards in time at your income. They're looking basically 2 years ago at your income. And as far as assets are concerned, your cash, savings, your checking, and other assets that might be counted in there as well. Like a second home, if you have equity in a home that you don't live in as your primary dwelling, then the equity in that second home could count also as assets. The assets they want as of the day you file the FAFSA. The income, though, they're looking back in time. Yeah, you're going to need email addresses and all that stuff. Yeah, make sure you're ready when you're doing this FAFSA. Studentaid.gov, there's that website. That's one of those websites you can get on there and start tooling around, and 2 hours later, you're like, wow, how did we end up where we are? I mean, this is, there's so much information out there, but I highly recommend it. The federal government's done a good job of getting all of this information under one roof there. The FAFSA, all kinds of great features to that form. Lots of help out there as well. Don't fear the FAFSA. Just get out there and do it. Studentaid.gov. There's an app for that, right? There's an app for everything. The first year the app came out, okay, I'll be honest, I didn't highly recommend the My Student Aid app. The first year it came out, I thought it was just a tad clunky maybe for doing the FAFSA. Now, very, very slick. All right, I like it, and it works extremely well. FSA ID, remember I said earlier, the student is going to need an FSA ID. Each student's gonna, and then at least one parent, because most students, coming out of high school are dependent, and therefore their parents have to put their information on the FAFSA. So at least one parent is also going to need one of these FSA IDs. It's a username and a password. Yeah, you need your email address out there, mobile phone. There's going to be security questions, right? On down the line, typical online security that we're looking at here. And the beauty of that FSA ID is that it counts as your electronic signature for federal purposes. And we at the state, we accept it also for when you are signing your Pennsylvania state grant form. FAFSA steps, here you are, step by step through the FAFSA. Student demographics, it kind of starts out, if we can say it this way, you're going to see student stuff, then you're going to see parent stuff, and then you're going to finish out with some more student stuff. Make sure you know which section of the form you are in, because if it's asking you for student information and you're plugging in parent information, that can be a major, major problem. In fact, it will be a major problem. I know a lot of parents want to get in there, want to try to help the student out maybe, and maybe they get in there and actually start the application, and they start out by filling in their information first. If you do that, parents, the FAFSA is going to be your document. Everybody's going to think you're the student, right? And then when you get to the parent section and it starts asking about parent stuff, you're going to be asking, why are they asking about the student's grandparents? No. So the FAFSA belongs to the student. Make sure the student is starting this document out. Parents, your part comes in the middle there. Yeah, log in, and there's all kinds of disclaimers, right? Hey, there's going to be some legalese that we all have to read as we go through this process. Assets, very important. I have seen some people accidentally cost themselves a lot of money by putting things in the assets section that don't belong there. Number one, your primary home or the family farm you live on. Do not include any of that in any equity you have in it. Definitely none of the value of that property. Don't include that as an asset. It's exempt. You can live in a $2 million home and it's paid off and it's irrelevant for the FAFSA. Totally irrelevant, right? You're going to see everybody's going to get a different number here. When you get to this portion of the FAFSA, as of today, total amount of your assets does exceed this number. That number is going to be different for everybody based on a bunch of different factors, including the age of the older parent. That's your asset protection allowance. A certain amount of assets are protected in the equation. And yeah, don't count qualified retirement funds in there either. I've also seen people in here when the form starts to ask about business assets, not business income, business assets. If your business does not employ 101 or more people, you do not have to put any business assets on this form at all. I've been walking behind people at FAFSA events and I see a $500,000 number in their asset section there. And my first question is, well, what's that? Oh, that's our business. We own a building, and the building, that's the value of it. I'm like, well, how many employees do you have? Oh, we have 8. No. Take that 500,000 out of there. It does not count, right? So be careful on reporting the assets. 529 college savings accounts, they are reported as a parent asset. Parent assets are treated a lot more gently in the equation than student assets. So it's good for PA 529s and other 529s as well. I guess I'm partial to Pennsylvania, right? So I always say PA 529, pa529.com is a great website to go visit. But yeah, 529 accounts, they count as a parent asset. And you want to include in there all of the 529 accounts, not just the ones that are in the name of the student, right? Because it's a parent asset. And so if you have multiple 529s, then they all go in there. How's your EFC calculated? The expected family contribution. That's the number that's pumped out at the end of the FAFSA. And the methodology for that is, well, the abbreviation would be FM, I guess, federal methodology. Some people think that stands for fuzzy math, but that's the federal methodology that calculates. It's, they're going to change the name of this from EFC. Expected family contribution sounds like something I'm going to get a bill for. They're going to change it to, it's really just a family financial strength indicator, right? The bigger the number, the more financially sound or financially capable the federal government believes you to be. If you have a 0 EFC, then that means you're eligible for a maximum federal Pell Grant, right? And the EFC is based on a bunch of different factors. If you're ever having trouble sleeping at night, go out and you can Google the federal methodology and look up all the actuarial tables as to how they calculate EFCs. I guarantee you'll be asleep in no time. I've kind of complicated formula, but the biggest factor in the equation is income. It's more income driven than anything else. But you can look up exactly what goes into that calculation. Pennsylvania state grant form, we use a different equation for state grant. So if you're not eligible for federal grant, you might be eligible for state grant and vice versa. But here's that shot of a confirmation page, the last screen of your FAFSA. And there might be a button right in there that says start your state application. Click on that. And you might need to get rid of the pop-up blocker monster. You might have to allow pop-ups for FIA, and then click the button, and then you'll be able to open up that state grant form and get that done. The FAFSA is only going to take you about half hour to 45 minutes. right? Sometimes it can take you longer to get your FSA ID. Sometimes that's the worst part, right? So maybe a half hour, 45 minutes for the FAFSA, maybe 10 minutes or so for the state grant form. If your school wants you to do the, additional forms, some of them might take longer. You might have to order a pizza for some of those. But all in all, well worth the time spent to apply for financial aid. Special circumstances. Remember, I said that when they're looking at your income, they're looking 2 years ago. And I also said that the income is maybe the biggest driving factor in calculating the EFC. So if there's been a divorce or a separation or unemployment or a layoff or whatever, since the year that they're asking for in your income, then what you're going to want to do is file your FAFSA as using the numbers they tell you to use. Afterward, go to the college or university that your student is attending, go to the financial aid office and let them know you've got a special circumstance. And they'll look at your particular situation and maybe make some adjustments to make your FAFSA information more reflective of your current situation. What happens after you file these forms? Well, on your FAFSA, you can release your information to up to 10 post-secondary schools. If you need to release your information to more than 10, all you got to do is release it to the first 10, wait a couple of days for it to process. Then you can go back in, remove some of the schools, put in some more, and release it to them. They will get the information then. But your school is going to receive the information. We as a state agency at FIA, we're going to receive the information as well. Your aid eligibility will be calculated. And ideally, what you want to get is you want to get financial aid notifications from as many schools as possible. I want offers from as many schools as I can get because I want to find out where my best price is. Remember net price calculator many slides ago that I talked about? Well, net price calculator is a very good estimator. However, it's not the same as an official offer. Here, when you get your official offer, that's when you can take a look at exactly, what the school is offering you to go there. I see a question here. GI Bill entitlements, do they impact EFC or aid eligibility? And no, they don't. I mean, you're not going to be asked about that in your FAFSA information. So yeah, you're going to be good with your GI stuff there. Okay, let's move on. Okay, here's our financial need calculation. And every school has, this is what I would call a sticker price. And that sticker price is tuition, fees, room and board, books, living expenses, everything. Miscellaneous expenses, haircuts, laundry, all that stuff. All is in the school cost of attendance. They're going to take your EFC from your FAFSA, subtract that out, and that's going to be your financial need. The difference there, cost minus EFC. That's your financial need. That's the number the school is going to do their level best to try to fill in there with federal Pell Grant, state grant, institutional funds, work study, whatever they can do. Remember, I told you a lot of people have to cobble together bunches of different sources of financial aid to cover their costs. Okay, yeah, this used to be called financial aid award letter. More common terminology now, financial aid offer letter. It's just an official notification from the school. And I said earlier, I want to get a bunch of these offer letters. So I want to apply to a bunch of schools personally. That's me. I want to be able to compare side to side a bunch of different offers and find out where my best deal is. I know a lot of people get laser focused on that, the one school where we want to be. But folks, FIA is all about finding and helping people find an affordable higher education. One rule of thumb, I really got to get it out there. You got to listen to the gray bearded old guy here, okay? The old grandpa of 9 here, okay? You got to listen to me on this point. Students, do not borrow more to get your education than you plan on making your first year in the workforce. Parents, do not borrow more to help all of your kids get through school than you make right now. Right? That rule of thumb is going to keep your loan payments within reason. So I want to compare as many offer letters as I can, and I'm going to calculate my level of borrowing. If my school of choice looks to me like it's going to force my student and or me as a parent to borrow more than those standards, then I need to maybe go to the school and say, look, you know, we really want to be there. That's the place we want to be, but we can't take on that kind of debt load. Is there anything you can do to help us out, right? I mean, but short of that, you just can't take on that level of debt. If student, I'll use an example, if student's going to be a mechanical engineer in Pennsylvania with a 4-year degree, average starting salaries around $54,000. You can't borrow more than $54,000 to get into that line of work, or else mom and dad, you know, you really need to maybe have a place reserved for the student to come back and live at home, because they're not going to be able to afford that loan payment on that. So students don't borrow more to get your education than you plan on making that first year in the workforce. So that's what really, when I'm looking at award letters, offer letters, that's what I want to find out. I want to find out how much aid am I getting? How much of that's loans, right? And what do I have to do to accept or reject any of these types? I got to look, yeah, there's more legalese here, rights, responsibilities. And yeah, there's no standard format for these. So you want to be careful. Make sure you're comparing apples to apples when you're looking at this. Here's a great slide to look at when you're comparing these offer letters, right? How much of this is free? Which are based on need, which are based on merit. Some financial aid sources are just purely merit-based. You can be from a financially independent family, and yet your student is so good at playing the tuba, or good at sports, or good at whatever, and get a merit-based scholarship to pay for college. It's not need-based. It's not based on financial need at all, right? So you need to figure out which type of aid it is. When I'm looking at awards or offers on my letter there, is this for first year only? Does this continue, right? If I'm getting maybe some kind of a scholarship from the school, if tuition goes up next year, does my scholarship go up next year? These would be good questions to ask. And definitely, bottom line, you got to be looking at how much borrowing is part of the equation there. Federal grant, primary grant is the Pell Grant, and used to be called the BEOG, Basic Educational Opportunity Grant, named it after Senator Pell there after a while. And maximum award this year, $6,345. That's if you have a 0 EFC. As your EFC goes up, Pell Grant goes down. And I think the number this year was 5711. If your EFC is above 5711, then your Pell Grant goes to 0. But you remember that you might still be eligible for a state grant because we use a different equation for the state. FSEOG is a supplemental grant. You know, that is, I've never seen a $4,000 award in FSEOG. Most schools try to ration it a little bit more than that. And I don't know, I'd say most schools run out of FSEOG before they run out of 0 EFCs. FSEOG is for the neediest families. Work study is a great way to help pay for school. Work study, I cannot recommend it highly enough. This is where the student gets a job on campus. Not every school has work study funds, but if it's offered, then it's a good idea. I think work study students have a tendency to get higher grades. They drop out less often. They get better jobs after they graduate. As I travel the state and look at financial aid offices around the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I see a lot of people who were work study students back when I worked in a financial aid office at a large state-related university in State College, Pennsylvania area. And so a lot of those students went right from work study job right into full-time job in that profession. A great opportunity and to get involved in work study. There's other federal grants, studentaid.gov. That's where you want to go to learn everything federal, right? And as far as GI benefits go, You know, schools are going to have a VA certifying official there. If you want to look that person up, become familiar with that person on campus. They'll help you navigate that and make sure you're getting max benefits there. So studentaid.gov for everything federal, PHEAA.org, FIA.org for everything state, because we talk about the primary things, Pell Grant, state grant. However, there's tons more federal stuff, tons more state stuff. And wow, if we were to go over every one of those programs, we'd all be here until tomorrow breakfast, right? So you got to do some research here. Studentaid.gov for everything federal, FIA.org for everything state. Scholarship search. I do give homework assignments. Yes, I do. And so this is your new hobby. Your new hobby is hunting for scholarships. We don't necessarily endorse the websites listed on this slide. However, you know, we haven't heard any bad horror stories really about these sites. I would say 15 minutes a day, 1 hour every weekend, get out there and look for scholarships. I and a lot of my colleagues have met student after student after student who graduated from college debt-free with scholarships they got just by, you know, searching through websites like these. I met a student once here in Somerset County who had a binder of all the scholarships that he had gotten online, and even had estimated how much he was making per hour. Said he was making $150 per hour hunting for scholarships. It can be done, but you got to work at it. Yeah, look at all the tips there on the left-hand side of this slide here. Big one there, don't pay. The old saying is, if they want you to pay, just run away. You know, do the free scholarship searches, and don't fear the essay. I'm not saying to copy and paste, but if you Google awesome scholarship essay, you know, you are going to get some hits out there. Make it your own, right? But you don't have to start from scratch on a lot of these things. And some of these scholarships, one of my colleagues loves Unigo. Is the site that she really likes, because there's some really interesting, strange, maybe types of scholarships out there. You know, wear duct tape to the prom type of a scholarship type of a thing. So make scholarship hunting your hobby. 15 minutes a day, 1 hour every weekend. Listen to the old guy. You'll thank yourself later. Most schools do offer a direct payment plan for a slight fee, you know, just a one-time fee, no interest. If you have a balance left over after your financial aid kicks in, a lot of schools will let you for maybe $35 to $75 in that range. Maybe they'll let you spread your payments out, pay as you go. Good option there. Federal direct student loan. This would be, if you're going to borrow, primary one to look at, federal direct student loan. Your Fafsa is the application for this loan. If you want to actually receive the loan, you're going to need to get out on studentaid.gov and fill out a master promissory note. There's no credit check on this. Every student pretty much gets it. There's two very, very rare exceptions when people are denied for this, but most students get it. 2.75% fixed rate. The first year maximum for a dependent undergraduate student is $5,500. That's the maximum. And there is a fee, 1.057%, which amounts to about $58.14 on that $5,500. So just be aware that fee comes off the top. If you're expecting $5,500 to show up, you're going to be, you know, $58.14 short. There is a 6-month grace period, so no payments are required on this while the student's in school. There are two flavors of this loan, though, subsidized and unsubsidized. The maximum subsidized loan is $3,500 for the first year, right? So maximum grand total is $5,500. No more than $3,500 of that can be subsidized. The rest would be unsubsidized. The subsidized loan is where the government pays the interest while the student's in school. And unsub, you don't have to pay the interest while the student's in school, but if you don't keep up with that interest, if you don't pay that interest off by 6 months after graduation, They're going to lump that unpaid interest into the principal, and it could raise your monthly payment by a significant amount. So if you have unsub loans, make sure you keep track of that interest and try to clear that off. Here's those borrowing limits. There are annual limits, and there is an aggregate maximum down there as well. Dependent undergrad students can't borrow any more than $31,000 in this program. You can do the math there. If you do $5,500, $6,500, $7,500, $7,500 over a 4-year career, that's 27 grand. If you don't graduate in 4 years, you only got 4,000 left there before you bump up against that 31,000 ceiling. Parents, quick heart to heart here with the old guy. Parents, you can borrow yourselves absolutely into oblivion in the Federal Direct Plus loan. I've been on this soapbox for 30 years. There is not a serious credit check on this plus loan. And you can borrow all the way up to the cost of attendance. So if your student's going to one of those $80,000 a year schools and they're not getting any financial aid of any other type, parents, you can borrow the whole 80 grand. And they're not going to look at your FICO score. They're not going to look at your debt to income ratio, and they're not going to look for proof of income. They're just going to look to see if you have bad credit. If you're not more than 90 days delinquent on a certain amount of bills, if you haven't declared bankruptcy in the last 5 years, you're going to get approved. I've seen people approved for plus loans who say, I only applied so I could get denied, because if I get denied, then my student can borrow more in the unsub program. But lo and behold, I apply, I never get approved for anything, they tell me. I've never been approved for a loan. I got approved for this plus loan. How's that possible? Because it's not a real credit check. Folks, you got to be careful with this. Parents, don't borrow more to help all your kids, right, than what you make right now. Very lenient credit check there. Then there are private education loans. And one example is through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, through FIA, is the PA Forward Student Loan Program. And private loans, they are through private sources, or like us, through a state source. They're non-federal, I guess maybe we can say that. And most of these are the type where the student is the borrower, but the student needs a co-signer, because this is a real credit check. And our program does have a Pennsylvania nexus to it, right? So this is not a national program. PA Forward, a Pennsylvania resident can take this loan and get it at any school nationwide, but not just anyone coming into Pennsylvania from another state can get PA Forward. It has to be one of the border states. If you look right around Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, West Virginia, coming up here soon, West Virginia, and Virginia. Those residents coming to a school in Pennsylvania can also borrow PA Forward. No fees, extremely reasonable rates, fixed rate loans. I think if you compare it, to other private products, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Ways to save. I'm going to say, this is kind of a magical slide here, right? I'm going to save everybody right now in the hearing of my voice. I'm going to save y'all 30% off your borrowing with 3 words: graduate on time. People who graduate on time borrow 30% less than folks who don't borrow on time. Look at all the other options on there, right? ROTC, I had a son who did ROTC. You can, do an RA, be a resident assistant. Community college can be a great place to start. Yeah, look at saving there, and scholarships as well. PA 529, I mentioned that earlier, pa529.com. Do it to it. Loan repayment calculators, we got some good resources for you out there. You can deal with it.com, studentaid.gov. If you want a customized experience on your federal side of things, go to studentaid.gov, plug in your FSA ID, username and password, same one from your Fafsa, and you will get a customized look at here's what you borrowed, here's what you're eligible for in repayment plans, here's what forgiveness programs you might qualify for. Studentaid.gov, very good. Finaid.org is another good one as well. MySmartBorrowing.org was built completely around that rule of thumb. Don't borrow more to get your education than you plan on making your first year in the workforce. You'll love that website as well. Look at all the different options, that we can mix and match for covering the cost of our education. Look into all of the best money first absolutely that free money first. But yeah, there's all kinds of different ways that people cover higher education finance. A lot of great resources here we've listed for you. Educationplanner.org. Get out there and check that one out. Search for your perfect school on educationplanner.org. That is, a great first step to get out there and search for your perfect school. And then you can go do net price calculators. Collegecost.ed.gov has that net price calculator center out there. I am your presenter here, Dan Ray. I'm with PA Forward Student Loans by FIA. And I know I'm a little bit early here, actually. I was hustling through there. So I did want to allow a couple minutes here for any questions that might come up. And that's my real contact information right there. That's my real phone number. Look at that. We're sitting right here by the computer here. Anytime you have questions, feel free to get a hold of me. Like I said, I don't know everything, but I know a ton of people who are smarter than me, and I can get you an answer. Email me, text me, call me, and I'll find it out for you. I try to get back to you. You're my first priority. I try to get back to students, families, financial aid administrators, college person. I try to get back to you within 24 hours. If there's any way possible, I might be in bed with my iPhone. Yeah, I'm one of those people. Sorry, but I want to help. I want to be there. I want to help you get through this process. It's stressful, right? Whenever you're looking for how to pay for college, it can be stressful. So that's all I got for you today. I'm going to hang on here for any kind of questions that might be available. And otherwise, that's my contact information. Get a hold of me and, we'll help you out. Thanks for being here, everybody. And I appreciate your time and attention. Thanks, Jennifer.
Hey, Dan, just a reminder for any attendees, I put that in the chat, that if you wanted to ask a quick question right now, you can use that Q&A button and add it in there. So Dan can take a look at that and see if there's any little reminder. Also, just as another reminder, this is being recorded, so you will be able to watch it later, and I'll give more details in a couple minutes. Dan, I think you got a question in the Q&A. Hey, Dan, you're on mute. Could you unmute? I'll send you a little notice. There you go.
Yeah. See, why doesn't that setting work? I always tell that thing when I start talking, it's supposed to come off mute, but it doesn't work that way. So, yeah, as long as your total number of employees is 100 or fewer, then yes, you do not have to put those businesses' assets on the FAFSA. Of course, any income that comes in, I mean, when you do your FAFSA, you're going to be linking directly out to the IRS. Most people are going to do that, link right to the IRS. It's just going to drag in all the income or whatever. But yeah, when it comes to assets, it's 101 or more employees total. Start filling out the FAFSA as soon after October 1st as possible, the year before you're going to start college. For most people, that's senior year of high school. Will slides be available? We can make those available. If you want to send me an email, I can get you a copy of the slide deck. I'll send that right out to you. If parents are separated, who fills out the FAFSA? And that rule, as it currently stands, there are plans changed, changes coming up in the future. But for right now, it is the parent with whom the student lived the most for the 12 months prior to completing the FAFSA. So it goes by, it used to go by who claims student on taxes, right? Some of us remember back in those days, and those days might be coming back in the future. But for right now, it's whoever the student lived with the most in the last 12 months prior to completing the FAFSA. I'm writing down an email address here for requesting the slides. Okay. And feel free to email me as well at daniel.wray daniel.ray@pheaa.org, daniel.ray, right there on the slide. And if you want the slides, be happy to provide those.
Awesome. So glad we were able to get those last couple of questions in, and I hope that people will email Dan with more questions. So we are reaching the end of our time together today. Just first of all, Dan, thank you so much for sharing so much knowledge, all the extra tips, and really helping to demystify the process and give everyone some really solid information and resources to use as well. I know it's so much to take on, figuring out the financial part of college education. And thank you to all of our attendees for taking the time out of your schedule to learn more and to dive into this topic. So we hope you have found this to be really helpful. So we have reached the end of our time together. So just want to say thank you again for everyone for attending Paying for College, sponsored by PNC Bank. We appreciate their support of all of this as well. And as you are all leaving today, I just wanted to remind you that when you close your window, there's going to be a very quick 4-question survey via a link. We'd appreciate any feedback that you can provide for us. And again, this is just one of many sessions that are being hosted for Pennsylvania students. We hope you've attended others, and we'll also sign up to attend more later today. And in about a week's time, you'll be able to find this session's recording as well as all other session recordings at that same website where you registered, strivescan.com/Pennsylvania. So you can watch this again, share it with other friends and family who might also find this information to be useful. So we're about to sign off. Dan, anything else you want to say before we head out?
No, just thanks very much to you for hosting, and very grateful for the opportunity, and always happy to help whoever has questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, again, for being here, and best wishes in your family's journey through the college search and decision process. So thanks again, and have a great day. Bye, everyone.
See ya.